This is the first episode of CSI. In this series, we're going to look at golf's most common myths and uncover the truths that will have the biggest impact on your game. Under the microscope today, we're going to look at the common advice of leading the downswing with your trail elbow, driving your elbow in front of your navel, or kind of driving your elbow out in front like you're skipping a stone. But before we start separating fact from fiction, just remember,
all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
Let's first look at what 3D shows us. If you've watched any of our videos in the past, you're probably familiar with these Tour Pro avatars. However, what you may not know is that these avatars are not the source of the data. The real magic happens with these small white balls that are placed at precise locations on the golfer's body and club. 10 high-speed cameras then track the movement of each marker down to the millimeter. That's how the swings are measured and how the data is collected. This means we can turn off the avatar and still know exactly what the player is doing throughout their swing. And for today's video, we're going to focus on linking specific markers to highlight crucial movements. We'll connect the markers on both the right and left sides of the player's pelvis, and we'll also connect his elbow to the base of his wrist. This setup allows us to track these specific areas without getting lost in a sea of white dots. You'll be able to see exactly where the player's pelvis and forearm are at any point during the swing, providing clear insights into the mechanics we're discussing. To truly understand what's happening to the trail elbow during the swing, we're going to give you a camera angle you've likely never seen before. We'll move the camera directly above the player, positioning it 90 degrees perpendicular to his pelvis, providing a precise bird's eye view. This unique perspective will allow you to see everything that moves in front of the player throughout his entire swing, regardless of his body's position or rotation. To make this even clearer, we'll utilize this pelvis box, which will remain perfectly square to and aligned with the front of his pelvis. This visual aid will instantly show you what is or isn't positioned in front of the player. So here at address, you can see that this multiple major champion indeed has his elbow, the blue dot, positioned in front of his pelvis. At this shaft parallel point in his backswing, it's clear that his elbow is already moved well outside his pelvis box. His elbow is no longer in front of him, which is primarily due to his shoulders rotating about 30 degrees more than what his pelvis is rotated. Moving to the lead arm parallel position, his elbow continues to drift away from his pelvis, propelled by the increasing rotation of his shoulders compared to his pelvis. By the time he reaches the top, you can see that his elbow is nearly as deep as his right hip, marked by the red dot here. Up to this point, nothing might seem out of the ordinary, but this is all just setting the stage for what happens next in the downswing, which will contrast sharply with what's often taught should happen in the downswing. As we reach lead arm parallel in his downswing, observe how his elbow is now positioned deeper and farther behind his right hip. This movement results from him lowering his trail arm as his pelvis rotates, yet his shoulders maintain the same close relationship with his pelvis that they had at the top of the swing. Time-wise, he's beyond the midpoint of his downswing, and his elbow has shifted farther away and behind his hip. This is literally the opposite of what the common advice like drive the elbow in front, lead with the elbow, or skip a stone, or get your elbow in front of a navel would have you do. Here at the start of his delivery phase at shaft parallel, notice his elbow still remains outside and behind his hip. Now the blink of an eye takes 150 milliseconds. Here he's just 35 milliseconds before impact. His elbow is still not in front, nor leading his downswing or even his delivery. Then here at impact, not much has changed in those 35 milliseconds, except that his elbow has even moved farther away and outside his pelvis. According to this former world #1 golfer and multiple major champion, trying to get the elbow anywhere other than the outside of your trail hip is not only an illusion, but also a myth. It's worth noting that this player is considered to be the best driver of the golf ball in the history of the game, demonstrating that this movement doesn't sacrifice any speed or accuracy. And just in case you're curious, let's check him out at shaft parallel post-impact. Even though his wrist is nearing the center of his body, his elbow still isn't in front of him. It's still outside his pelvis. So that's what this player does. Let's look at another player and see how they compare. Pro number 2 is also a former world number 1 and multiple major champion. He's often highlighted as the prototype example of someone who leads with their elbow or gets their elbow quickly in front of their center line in the downswing. This makes him an ideal case to examine. At address, he too also has his elbow well inside of his pelvis box. At checkpoint number 2, he isn't as rotated with his shoulders, which positions his elbow still barely inside of his box, but it's still in front of him. By the time he reaches checkpoint 3, his elbow is no longer in front and for the first time outside of his box. As he hits the top, Pro number 2's movements start to mirror what we saw with Pro number 1, with his elbow moving further outside and drawing deeper towards his right hip. By checkpoint number 5, which is well beyond the midpoint of his downswing, his elbow is moved even farther outside his box and deeper towards his hip. Another top pro, illustrating the illusion and debunking the myth. At the beginning of his delivery phase, his elbow remains well outside his box, not in front of his center line, and definitely not leading his downswing. Would you want to take the bet that he can move his elbow in front of him in the 37 milliseconds he has left before impact? If you decline that bet, you chose wisely. Despite generating significant shaft lean, none of Pro number 2's right arm is in front of his pelvis. This is a perfect illustration and why we say impact happens on the trail side. It isn't until checkpoint 8 that his elbow finally passes in front of his right hip, as his right wrist has already moved past his left hip. Now that you know what happens, you don't need something like gears to see it, because as you're seeing on your screen, this elbow movement has been hiding in plain sight the whole time. In our extensive database, we have 9 world number 1 golfers, players who've collectively won well over 30 major championships. That includes loads of winners from the PGA Tour, DP World Tour, LPGA Tour, PGA Tour champions, Korn Ferry Tour, as well as the Ryder Cup and President's Cup players from both sides. These players have won over a staggering $1.7 billion with a B playing this great game. And out of all those players, we haven't found one yet that leads with the elbow or skips a stone or drives their elbow in front of their navel on the downswing, or any other version of that same technique. However, what all those players do have in common is they lower their trail arm towards the outside of their trail hip, and they keep it there into and well past impact. Lowering your arm might be the simplest and physically easiest move in golf, far easier than trying to force the elbow in front, requiring a simultaneous external rotation of your shoulder, which is something else that doesn't happen in the swings of great players. So to wrap this one up, leading with the elbow is at best an illusion, but mainly just a myth. Let us know in the comments down below if you've been trying to add this move to your swing. Also, let us know if you'd like to see us make a video on how to add these pro moves to your swing. Thank you for watching. We'll see you on the next one.